What is up, everybody? It's Animac here for Anime Uproar, and Asta just got isekai'd to a place with strange magical powers. A place where Yami's childhood friend is about to teach him a brand new power-up. At least that's what he claims, but the reality could be a lot more sinister, as I'm going to discuss in this video. Whoever he really is, the guy who claims to be Yami's friend has truly unbelievable magic that could be related to time, so let's break it all down right now. You guys know how this works. If you like our Black Clover videos, you want us to keep it going with the Black Clover videos, leave a quick like and comment right now. It only takes you a second, but it really helps us with that YouTube algorithm. And of course, subscribing and hitting that notification bell is a completely free way of supporting the channel right now. Subscribing might seem like a little thing, but it actually helps us out a ton on YouTube. Finally, this video will of course contain Black Clover manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Okay, so in the previous chapter, we of course saw that Asta was magically teleported to a mysterious beach where a certain person was already expecting him. That in itself was a huge mystery because no one was planning for Asta to appear there, and no one even knew where Asta ended up after he was hit with that spatial magic spell. Our only clue about Asta's whereabouts was the outfit of the man who was standing over him on the beach. And that's because the outfit looked like traditional Japanese attire. Since we know that Yami is originally from Hino Country, a land that strongly resembles medieval Japan from our own world, many of us guessed that Asta might have somehow ended up in Yami's homeland. And this hypothesis was indeed confirmed in the latest chapter, but then even stranger things began to happen. Things that are about to have a massive impact on the rest of the story. Oh, and did I say that it was confirmed that Asta was in Yami's homeland? Well, maybe not so fast. The latest chapter starts off at the home base of the Black Bulls, where all the Black Bulls who were not in the capital are now gathered. As they engage in their usual shenanigans, Nacht arrives and tells them that Asta is most likely dead. As the Black Bulls look on in disbelief, Nacht explains that Asta was clearly mortally wounded by Lucius, and he was then erased by spatial magic. If we take all of that into consideration, the most logical and reasonable conclusion is that Asta is dead. Nacht is like, listen, I know this makes you feel terrible, but facts are facts and facts don't care about your feelings. Nevertheless, on the very next page, Nacht says that even though objectively speaking Asta being dead is the most likely scenario, Nacht still doesn't believe that Asta is dead, and he won't believe it unless he sees Asta's dead body with his own eyes. All the Black Bulls instantly agree with Nacht. There is no way that Asta is dead, because Asta never gives up, and so they will never give up on Asta. And also, this is Black Clover, so Asta is obviously not dead, guys. Anyway, Nacht then declares that the decision is unanimous, and he invites everyone to head out and find that idiot Asta as soon as possible. The next page shows Asta himself waking up inside what looks to be a traditional Japanese room from like the Edo period. He is wondering where he is when a little girl that looks like a Japanese Charmy suddenly comes into the room. This Charmy turns out to be some sort of automaton that vomits tea from its mouth and then serves it to people. That is definitely not off-putting at all. Some of the finest tea in the world is actually robot vomit, that is a fact. And so as Asta looks on in confusion, a man dressed in traditional Japanese clothing explains that this is a tea-serving doll. We then see the man's face, and it appears to be the same man who had been expecting Asta on the beach back when he was first isekai'd. Now that we see this man, it's clear that he looks a lot like Yami, although his hairstyle is different and he also wears an eye patch. But other than that, he could easily be Yami's brother. Asta is surprised that this random guy knows his name, but he is even more surprised when he realizes that his mortal wound looks like it has been completely healed. Asta believes that only Mimosa's overpowered Shenron magic could heal a wound that severe, and he asks this man if he was the one who healed him. The man replies that no, he doesn't have that kind of power, but his friend does. There is a third person there in the room with them, a serious and dignified young woman who is also wearing traditional Japanese clothing. But I am not sure if this is the healing friend that the man is referring to, or if he's talking about a different friend. Either way, the man seems to have a lot of friends who are skilled healers, because he also explains that Liebe is currently being fixed up by more of his friends. The man also seems to be fully aware of devils and their existence, and Asta is extremely curious to know who this mysterious man is. The only thing that Asta knows about him is that his ki isn't hostile. The man then explains that he has known Yami since childhood, and Asta confirms that their ki is similar. The man claims that he grew up with Yami, but he hasn't seen his friend since he disappeared at age 13. The man even asks Asta whether Yami still takes long dumps, which basically confirms that he really does know Yami quite well. The man then proceeds to describe other aspects of Yami's personality, including his mean look, his aggressive nature, and his fear of bugs. And as the man is talking, the girl beside him seems to be like mean-mugging him, as if she doesn't want him to joke around about Yami. I wonder if she has some connection to Yami, like maybe she is his sister or something. Asta thanks the man for his help, but he explains that he has to rush back to his friends because the Clover Kingdom is in danger. The man responds by saying that Asta cannot go back now because if he does, he will lose. The man also knows that Asta just had his heart broken by the woman he loved, and then both that woman and the person he looked up to, the Wizard King, tried to kill him. When Asta asks how this man could possibly know all these things, the man taps his eye patch and says that he has the power to see whatever he wants to. And it is this eye that is telling him that Asta isn't strong enough to defeat his enemy. At least not yet. And besides, even if Asta wanted to go back to the Clover Kingdom right away, it simply isn't within his power to go back. That's because he is now in Hino Country, which is very far from the Clover Kingdom. At the very least, it is on another continent, but we still don't know for sure if this is a different part of the Black Clover world or a different dimension altogether. The man then finally introduces himself as Ryuuya, the Shogun of Hino Country, also known as the Land of the Sun, and he says that he can give Asta a much needed power-up. And that is how this absolutely insane chapter ends. We just got some intense world building, a new completely overpowered character was casually introduced, and Asta is confirmed to be receiving a major power-up very soon. This is definitely an exciting time for all of us in the Black Clover fandom, and here is my main takeaway from the events of this chapter. The first thing that got my attention is the seemingly completely broken magic of Ryuuya's eye. How does he know Asta's name? How does he know what exactly happened to Asta before he arrived here? How did he know that Asta would be isekai'd to that specific location at that specific time? How does he know that Asta would lose if he returned to the Clover Kingdom now? Either Ryuuya has a magic power that is equivalent to some sort of magical psychic power like mind reading or precognition or something along those lines, or he might have a power related to time magic. If Ryuuya could peek into the future like say Lucius can, then he could probably see future scenarios that allowed him to know all of this information. But could that mean that Ryuuya also has a fragment of Astaroth's time magic, or does he have some completely different type of magic power? Whatever is going on here, it's clear that Ryuuya is extremely powerful to the point of being broken. And that is before we even get into the crazy overpowered healing powers that Ryuuya's allies seem to have. And is Ryuuya's magic the thing that brought Asta to Hino Country before he could be killed by Sister Lily and Lucius? And if so, how freaking powerful is this man? That T-doll automaton also caught my eye because although it serves just a basic function like serving tea, this could be our first hint that Yami's homeland is actually more technologically advanced than the Clover Kingdom. And that could end up playing some role in the story. I mean, I don't think that technology alone will be super important in what is clearly a fantasy series, but perhaps Hino Country possesses some sort of advanced magical technology that might give Asta an edge in the final battle. And speaking of Asta and the final battle, what kind of power-up do you think that Asta is about to receive from Ryuuya? Is there some sort of secret samurai magic that the Clover Kingdom simply isn't aware of? Perhaps a magical power-up that requires the mastery of ki, which is something that the majority of the Clover Kingdom residents are not familiar with at all. Or are we talking about something else here, like Hino Country having their own unique demons/devils, or maybe even kami/gods who could allow Asta to achieve a power-up? Now, to be clear, it's very likely that Ryuuya really was telling the truth and that he is going to be Asta's new ally and mentor. But there is one other intriguing possibility that's not nearly as likely, but that I just couldn't get out of my mind after seeing that girl's face while Ryuuya was talking about Yami. What if Ryuuya has some sort of illusion magic, and everything Asta is seeing is actually a lie? What if Ryuuya is working with Lucius, or is perhaps even Lucius in disguise? And this girl beside him is either Sister Lily or some other accomplice who may have mixed feelings about what's going on. I say this because a dark twist like that would explain a lot. Lucius seemed very confident that Asta has been eliminated as a threat, and it could be because he transferred him somewhere where he would be mentally trapped in an illusion and wouldn't be able to get out. Maybe Lucius even plans on doing some experiments on anti-magic while Asta is trapped in this illusion. Someone who could mess with Asta's mind would be able to extract all the information that Ryuuya knew about Asta, including the Yami stuff. And since Asta knows that Yami is from a mysterious land on another continent, Ryuuya could just make that construct and make himself look like Yami in order to make Asta trust him. This may also explain why Liebe was not there with Asta, which to me was very suspicious right away. Asta and Liebe are practically inseparable, and now they've suddenly been separated while Asta is unconscious. And of course, this would explain why Ryuuya found Asta at exactly the right place at exactly the right time. Asta fell into the very trap that Ryuuya had set for him for the start. Finally, the Black Bulls setting off to find Asta means that they will have to defeat Ryuuya, or whoever he really is, and force him to release Asta. In the process of this internal struggle, Asta may just unlock the kind of power-up that he needs to defeat Lucius. Again, this is not a likely scenario. Asta most likely is in Hino Country, and if this illusion scenario were true, then we would also have to explain away the fact that Ryuuya's ki was not threatening to Asta. Basically, Ryuuya would have to manipulate not only Asta's mind, but also his ki sensing ability in order for this part to work. So yeah, Ryuuya probably is telling the truth. But it would be pretty freaking dark if it turned out that Asta was trapped inside an illusion within his own mind, while on the outside he might actually still be dying from that deadly wound. Let me know what you guys think. Do you trust Ryuuya, and what is his magic power? How does his mysterious eye actually function, and what other abilities do you think he has? Who was that girl that was with Ryuuya, and does she have some connection to Yami? Finally, was Ryuuya able to somehow manipulate Sister Lily's spell in order to teleport Asta to that exact location, or did something else happen here? Drop me a line down in the comments. I always love hearing from you. You guys know the drill. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment right now. It helps me out a lot. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. I know it might not seem like a big deal, but subscribing and hitting that bell here on YouTube means a lot. And of course, it's completely free. You can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Anime Uproar. I want to give a big thank you to all of our Anime Uproar patrons for making videos like this one possible. Special thank you to our The One tier patrons, the ones who stand above all other clans. including Alpha Sigma, Pate Heffa, The Toasted Chi, Corey McGowan, Baked Buddhist, and Jeremy Pontier. And I can't forget all of our Pro Hero tier patrons, including the one and only Gilgamesh, Angel Cruz, Alicia Octer, Fatboy Games, Kaido Might Be a Duck, Alivania, and Anime S Code M. If you guys enjoy our videos and you feel that they provide value for you, consider supporting us on Patreon or here through YouTube memberships. Even a single dollar helps, and it means a lot to us. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.